going on, everybody? I go by the name of Kari, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish. Today, I wanted to get into this article that recently came out on Complex about what's going on with the sneakers app and kind of dive into it a little bit because I've been seeing a lot of you guys talking about this article, but unfortunately, I feel like we really haven't gotten down to the root of what's really going on here, and the fact of the matter is that the article is dumb. So today, we're going to dig into it a little bit more. We're going to actually kind of decode what a lot of this stuff means. Some of it you guys probably already realize, some of it you guys may not realize, but I'm here, of course, to shed a light. But without further ado, let's jump directly into the article. Now, if you guys are not familiar, on October the 11th, Brandon Dunn, I forget how to say his name. He came out with an article on Complex that's called Nike Shares Sneakers Data, Plans, and Concerns in an Internal Meeting. So, big headline, and of course, it got a lot of people's attention. Now, let me set this article up a little bit for you guys. First of all, I call cap, is that the word that we're saying these days? Cap? I call cap on a lot of how this information was even obtained. At the beginning of this article, they talk about in an internal meeting, the company addressed the current state of the sneakers app, the digital home of its most coveted product. It made it seem like Complex somehow in some secret way got their hands on this super secret chart deck, this PowerPoint of information that nobody was supposed to have, but Complex had it because I feel like that's the way that they do a lot of their articles, but I'm gonna be real with you guys. Personally, I feel like Nike actually orchestrated this to actually go out through Complex. Just one man's opinion, but I feel like this was actually supposed to leak. This was supposed to get out to the people. This was supposed to kind of ease the concerns that a lot of people have been having about the sneakers app. And let's be real, if you're like me, you've been taking a lot of L's on the sneakers app. Matter of fact, I'm coming straight off of an L from the Pata drop this morning, so congratulations to you if you were able to get a pair of those. But let's jump directly into the article. I'm gonna read pretty much verbatim from this article as well. It says, slides from a presentation accompanying the meeting, which were viewed by Complex, show that Nike is wary of alienating sneaker collectors through its launch tactics. Now they said, we're at risk of losing our most sneaker obsessed consumer. That's what one of the slides said. It goes on to talk about the shoppers are becoming disenfranchised and moving elsewhere as they view Nike's limited releases as a part of the hype machine, saying, quote, high heat hype is killing the culture and consumers are migrating towards New Balance and smaller independent brands. Let's stop right there. Let's kind of digest what they just said. They said that they're losing their most sneaker obsessed consumer. But who in the world is their most sneaker obsessed consumer? The people that are spending the most money? The people that they're still trying to connect with on a community basis through the sneakers app? Like, who exactly is their most sneaker obsessed consumer? That's a difficult thing because I'll be honest with you, I really feel like a lot of the more sneaker obsessed consumers that I see out here aren't spending the majority of the money. Now, of course, there's a lot of sneakerheads like myself, of course, a lot of you guys that are still spending a lot of money on the sneakers app trying to grab up what everybody's trying to grab. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that really love the culture of sneakers, which is the thing that the sneakers app is trying to cultivate these days, they're not really even spending the majority of the money. If you notice, a lot of the money is being spent by botters and resellers. That's who I feel is spending the majority of the money out here on product. As a matter of fact, there was a recent article that came out about another brand, I believe it was New Balance, maybe Adidas, I can't remember, but they talked about the way that they drop their releases and how only 70% of their releases are actually caught by genuine users. So that's why they're not really as incentivized to do bot protection, because they feel like if they did bot protection, they wouldn't sell through 100% of their product. Nike is the same way. They know that if they block resellers or they block botters from getting a lot of their product, chances are they're not gonna sell through all of their products. So I call cap on some of this. Here's the other thing I call cap on as well. They talked about people are migrating to New Balance as an effect of them not being able to get sneakers on Nike. I don't know what level of self-absorbed you have to be. And I understand it's Nike, it's a big brand, so they gotta be pretty self-absorbed. But honestly, I didn't go to New Balance because I couldn't get a shoe from Nike, and I don't think a lot of you guys either. New Balance, Puma, Asics, a lot of these companies have been coming out with some incredible product outside of whatever Nike has going on. So it's funny how even in an article or in a slide deck where they're admitting their own fault, they still got to big themselves up by making it seem like the only reason why people are buying Water Be the Guides or Peace Be the Journeys or some of the other incredible products that New Balance has been coming out with is because we can't buy a Nike. Seriously? Nah, Nike, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. The article goes on to talk about the concerns and much of the strategy cited in the meeting extend to Nike's neighborhood retail partners, which are the top tier boutiques like Foot Locker, things like that, and collaborators that have access to its most sought after sneakers. That's like Social Status, Maniere, Wish, Union, Notre, those types of stores. But here's the thing about those stores as well. I call cap on that as well because honestly, a lot of those neighborhood top tier boutiques are backdooring a lot of their sneakers over to resellers anyway. So we can't cop from the boutiques either. So I don't know what kind of strategy they're trying to extend over to the boutiques because that's not really gonna work either. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They talk about the sneakers global VP, Ron Ferris, who, by the way, is the man that I believe took over Ann Hebert's job. If you guys remember her, she was West Coast Joe's mom that ended up getting fired because of her link to all of his reselling activity and stuff like that. So this new VP says, our community is becoming disenfranchised by our low fairness numbers. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. VP Ron says that the fairness numbers are in the mid 20s and they should be in the 80s. Now, that's funny, right? Because number one, I don't really know what fairness means, but I'm gonna guess that fairness means the amount of people, the amount of unique accounts on the sneakers app that are able to get product out here, that are able to get what they really are going for out here. And I told you guys a long time ago, I say this on Twitter a lot, Nike is tracking all of this data. Nike is tracking your size preferences, they're tracking your wins, they're tracking your losses. They aggregate all of this data into a fairness algorithm, I guess, that tracks how fair you're being treated on the app. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's doing much because those fairness numbers are in the low 20s, which basically means you have around a 20% chance of getting whatever sneaker that you get, or the sneakers app is fair to you about 20% of the time, whatever that means. So he says, instilling a sense of fairness in app users is a priority for Nike. A slide from the meeting in August included a global fairness mandate meant to ensure 80% perceived member fairness through the lens of access, bot mitigation, inclusion, clarity, and accountability. We're gonna stick a pin in that and come back to that. He also used an analogy of gentrification to describe the trajectory of sneaker collecting going from a subcultural activity to something more mainstream. The path, he explained, has disaffected the groups who originally shaped the culture. Now he plans to correct the course. He said, quote, we're gonna shape the marketplace to reflect the community we serve, especially in Black and brown communities and Asian communities. Let me tell you what they said without saying it. Young white kids have had more money and more access to a lot more sneakers these days than the people who actually made the sneaker culture hot, which was Black folks, brown folks, minorities. When you go to a sneaker con, chances are you're going to see a lot of young Caucasian kids with a lot of money having the most hyped up product because they're the ones that are using their parents' money sometimes or flipping their own money or have a lot more resources because we know socioeconomically they're just going to have more resources. They have more resources to get more product. When you see those flex pictures with these kids with mountains of boxes, they look a lot like West Coast Joe. And so basically it's difficult for Nike to keep telling Black stories or to tell stories of minorities and get them engaged with the app when they feel like they keep losing these shoes to all these young Caucasian children that are flexing all their pairs of sneakers off the sneakers app. And let me tell you something about black dollars. Black dollars are powerful dollars, so if they lose the black dollar, they lose a lot of business. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. One slide shown in the meeting says that the global number of active sneakers app users increased 57% in the last year. That puts overall demand within the app at $1.69 billion. Remember when I told you guys about demand creation? I talk about that a lot on Twitter and stuff like that. If you guys didn't realize, Nike actually has a group of people. They're called demand creation, and they're a line item on their quarterly reports, and they spend almost $1 billion, I said billion with a B, on demand creation every single quarter. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this. Now that goes for anything from setting up installations, those really interesting in-store displays, to making sure the demand stays high on their digital platforms like the sneakers app. So it's working, but the problem here is that demand creation is working a little too well. Now there's so much demand on so much product that the supply is nowhere near the amount of demand, and it's making people very upset. As a matter of fact, this article says that the demand within the sneakers app went up 70% versus last year, and that Nike was only able to meet 7% of that demand. Nike has previously satisfied a bigger portion of the demand. The presentation puts that same number at around 13% for 2019 and 2020. So when you really think about that, right? Like, it's crazy to think that when you had a 13% chance of getting the shoe that you wanted on sneakers, that was already an incredibly low number. A lot of people were already taking L's on the sneakers app, but then you cut that in half on top of that, down to 7%. So now you only have a 7% chance of getting what you want on the sneakers app. It's insane. They said during the meeting that the numbers are low mostly because there isn't enough product to meet demand. Well, hello, Captain Obvious. They illustrated how much the sneaker user base is growing, saying that 300,000 people used to show up for the app on launch day, where now 750,000 people may show up on the app for launch day. Now, remember I said to stick a pin in all those users and everything like that? Let me show you something. You see all these phones here? All of these phones could be its own sneakers account, which is what a lot of people are doing these days. They're getting so many phones and they're using different devices to create more and more sneakers accounts. We talked about that. Sound off down below in the comments and let me know if you really just have one sneakers account only, or if you started branching out to 2, 3, 4, 5 or more sneakers account, trying to increase your chances of winning a shoe. This is what it's come to. Now, I will give Nike a little bit of leeway that they're trying to curb people from setting up a million different accounts these days. If you guys go into your sneakers app and you look at sneakers now, there's a little link here that says learn about product launches. When you go to that link, it actually has these new kind of rules for launches, and one of those rules says if you join a launch using multiple accounts with the same address, only one of these submissions will be validated. So now Nike is telling you that if you have a lot of different accounts and you all have them going to the same address, they're only going to use one of those entries and they're automatically going to cancel out all the other entries. Personally, I feel like they're going to cancel out all those entries anyway, just because they see that you're trying to game the system. So big sneakers tip for you guys: don't use more than one address for your accounts if you have multiple accounts. The last part of this article talked about the Off-White Dunk drop, and they talked about how they only dropped 500,000 pairs to the most deserving users on the sneakers app. Now, the funny thing about that is that over 50 different types of sneakers, that's only 10,000 pairs each. 10,000 pairs for easily 750,000 people that were trying to get that shoe. So your chances of getting that were extremely low. Congratulations if you did get exclusive access to a pair, because I didn't. Now, the article closes out by saying, what does this mean for us? He said it means that we have to listen more. It doesn't mean that we're going to be dictating culture. It means our community must dictate the culture and we have to listen to them. Listen, that was a bunch of corporate speak, but let me break down what he's actually saying and why a lot of this article is BS. The fundamental issue with the sneakers app is not all the crap that they talked about with those numbers and percentages and stuff like that. Honestly, that really only made people feel worse. Like, if I read that article and I realized that I only had a 7% chance of getting a shoe on the sneakers app, I'd be like, okay, well then screw the sneakers app. Clearly I'm not gonna win anything on it. But they really didn't address anything. They really didn't address how anything is going to be fixed or changed. As a matter of fact, they really didn't even speak to them actually wanting to fundamentally fix the problem. They just want to change the perception and make the app seem more fair without actually making it more fair. Because the only way that you're gonna make the app more fair these days is by making more product. And making more product is an entire conversation that we have to have another day about logistics and supply chain and all this other type stuff. So making more pairs of the shoe may or may not be the answer. I see what they're trying to do as far as curbing multiple accounts and things like that, but let's be real, guys. There's an address jig that you can do that can easily get you around that. There's so many different things that you could do to get around that if you're really trying to get multiple pairs of a shoe and have multiple accounts, that's not gonna be hard to get around. They use these buzzwords like culture and community and things like that. And while I understand that the sneakers app at its core is a community app, and it's the type of app that they want people to continue to engage in, whether or not they're able to get product, let's be honest, the reason why you engage with these apps 9 times out of 10 is because you're hoping that it gets you access to some type of product, that this video you're watching or this thing you're favoriting or whatever you're doing gets you the ability to get a shoe that you really want someday. And unfortunately, people are taking so many L's these days that the morale of the sneakers app is going through the floor. In my opinion, there's a few ways that they could probably fix this. One way that they can make the app more fair would be to make the checkout process a little bit more difficult. If you guys have been rocking with some of the releases that like Manier has been doing lately, or some of the boutiques, they have a new captcha system. You guys have been drawing boxes in those little cats for a while now. It's silly, but it actually makes the process very fair because it means means that bots can't get through. So if they do something that's an extra step that makes people feel like, first of all, bots didn't really have a chance, and second of all, it really is on them, it's really on us, the consumer, whether or not we get the shoe, rather than feeling like it's totally out of our control, sometimes those L's are actually a little bit easier to take. We can swallow an L if we were just too slow, or if we could have had the shoe, but for whatever reason we weren't able to get it. That's why I think a lot of people miss first come, first serve drops. And why a lot of people, if you notice, like shock drops a lot more, because when a shock drop happens, it's fair game for all. You have the same chance of anybody else of getting the product if you're fast enough. But if you're not fast enough, hey, it was an L, you go on with your day. But when you see bots getting everything, and when you see different types of people, the same type of people, it feels like, getting all of the product, that's where I think people are getting more upset. Maybe you could add a trivia question before checking out on the sneakers app for a shoe. Maybe you could start doing more shock drops again during those live streams and get people to tune into those live streams. You know, for me, if anybody from Nike is watching this, if you really want to make the sneakers app bigger and better than what it is right now, because you're losing a lot of users on that app right now, whether you know it or not, you're gonna have to learn how to incentivize people for learning their history and being a part of the community. That's just where we are right now as a culture. A lot of people don't want to sit there and watch the story of Dunk if they feel like they're not going to get access to a Dunk. There's just not that many people that are spending the amount of money that you guys want the consumers to spend that are interested in that much history with absolutely nothing to show for it at the end of listening to all of that history. But save all that corporate blah blah that you paid Complex or somehow Complex got their hands on. Save all of that jargon, because honestly, that article could have been one paragraph that was how to get more W's in the sneakers app, or real tangible fundamental changes that Nike is going to start implementing today to make that app a lot more fair than it is. And unfortunately, I didn't get either one of those things in that entire article. So salute to Brendan for writing the article, but that one got lost on me, guys. Now it's time for you guys to sound off down in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about the article, about the sneakers app these days, if you're happy with them, if you're not happy with the app, if you're really frustrated with it. Sound off down below. Let me know how you're feeling about it these days. Of course, right down in the comments, make sure that you click on that subscribe button so we can welcome you into the Sneaker Fetish family, to make sure you don't miss out on any more heat or any more discussions that we have going on around here, because I guarantee you, we got a lot more of both on the way. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on Sneaker Fetish, talking with me, dialoguing with me for a couple of minutes. I go by the name of Kari, and until next time, I'm out.